Hello, story lovers. Tonight we're diving into a tale of passion, secrets, and choices that could change everything. Hearts will be broken, love will be tested, and every twist will leave you on the edge of your seat. Comment below where you're watching from. And if this story moves you, hit like, subscribe. Share it with someone who loves a powerful love story. And tap the bell so you never miss the next thrilling chapter. Ready? Let's begin. The conservatory smelled of white roses and fear. Julian Ashford stood at the altar, his jaw tight enough to shatter teeth. 29 years old, worth $3 billion, and here he was like some medieval prince being sold off for the kingdom. The glass walls caught the afternoon light, scattering gold across the white flower arrangements. Beautiful. Suffocating. You look like you're about to face a firing squad, Oliver whispered beside him. Feels about right. The string quartet shifted into the wedding march. Julian's hands clenched. This was it. The stranger his mother had chosen. The woman his dead grandfather had somehow approved. The price of keeping Ashford Industries. The doors opened. She appeared in a shaft of sunlight, wrapped in white silk that moved like water. No veil. Just daisies woven through honey-blonde hair that fell past her shoulders. She carried wildflowers, the kind that grew along forgotten roads. Something twisted in Julian's chest. Something sharp and painful. She walked alone, her steps measured but uncertain. Nervous fingers gripped the flower stems. There was grace in her posture, something familiar in the way she held her head. Then she looked up. Their eyes met. The world stopped. Hazel eyes. Gold-flecked. Warm and wide with recognition. Eyes he knew. Eyes that had looked at him across a creek in summer. Eyes that had cried when they said goodbye. No, Julian breathed. Her bouquet trembled. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Emma. The name fell from his lips like a prayer, like a curse, like 18 years of forgetting shattered in a single heartbeat. Emma Winters. His childhood best friend. His first kiss under the willow tree. The girl he'd loved before he knew what love meant. She stood frozen 3 steps away, lips parted in shock. Julian, she whispered. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. The minister cleared his throat, oblivious. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today, ... Julian couldn't hear him. Couldn't hear anything over the roaring in his ears. How was this possible? His mother had chosen Emma. His grandfather had approved Emma. She stepped forward, joining him at the altar. Up close, he saw the small scar above her left eyebrow. The apple tree. They'd been 10. He'd caught her when she fell, but not before the branch scratched her face. How? He managed. I don't know. Her voice broke. Your mother called 6 weeks ago. Said it was arranged. I thought you knew. I thought you wanted this. I didn't know your name. She never told me. She never told me either. Just that it was necessary. That it was your grandfather's wish. The minister droned on. Family and friends watched expectantly. Julian saw his mother in the front row, that knowing smile playing at her lips. She'd orchestrated this. Every piece of it. Do you, Julian Ashford, take this woman? ... double quotes, his mind raced. Emma, here, his bride. The only woman who'd ever made him feel anything real. And she was marrying him because someone arranged it, because she thought he wanted it, because 18 years had passed and life had twisted them back together like some cosmic joke. I do, he heard himself say. Emma's hand shook as she slid the ring onto his finger. Her touch sent electricity up his arm. The same feeling. After all these years, the same. You may kiss the bride. Julian looked at her. Really looked at her. The girl he'd loved was gone, replaced by a woman with shadows in her eyes and scars he couldn't see. But those eyes still held summer. He leaned in slowly. Gave her time to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met softly. Briefly. And for one perfect second, Julian forgot about the inheritance. The manipulation. The impossible situation. There was only Emma. Only this. They pulled apart. Applause echoed through the glass room. We need to talk, Emma whispered against his ear. There's something you don't know. Something about why I agreed to this. Julian's blood went cold at the fear in her voice.
What is it?
Not here. She pulled back, forcing a smile for the guests. But Julian, when you find out the truth, you're going to hate me. Before he could respond, before he could demand answers, his mother swept in with congratulations and champagne. The reception began. Emma was pulled away by relatives, and Julian was left standing in the golden light, married to his first love, terrified of whatever secret she was hiding. The lake house smelled like cedar and memories. Julian dropped the luggage inside the door, his tie already loosened, jacket discarded in the car. His mother had insisted they spend their wedding night here at the family estate, in the same house where he and Emma had spent countless summers as children. Cruel, deliberate, perfectly Vivian. Emma stood by the window, still in her wedding dress, staring out at Lake Serenity. The water caught the last rays of sunset, turning it to liquid copper. She'd let her hair down. It fell in waves down her back, just like when she was 14. I used to think this place was magic, she said without turning. Remember? We called it the Forever House, because summer felt like it would never end. Emma, Julian's voice was rough. Tell me. Whatever you're hiding, just tell me. She turned slowly. In the dying light, her face looked ethereal and exhausted. Can I ask you something first? Why did you agree to this marriage? The real reason? He poured himself a drink from the bar cart. Whiskey burned down his throat. My grandfather's will. Marry before 30 or lose the company. I thought I was sacrificing myself for the legacy. He laughed bitterly. Turns out I was being manipulated into a second chance I'd never asked for. You didn't want to see me again? The hurt in her voice cut him. Julian crossed to her, stopping just close enough to catch her scent. Wildflowers. Still, I thought about you every day for 5 years after we lost touch, he said. Then I taught myself to stop. It was easier than missing you. I never stopped. The confession hung between them like smoke. Emma, please. What did you mean when you said I'd hate you? She closed her eyes. I need you to understand something first. My father got sick 3 years ago. Cancer. The treatments bankrupted us. We lost everything. The house, the savings, even the land in Rosewood Village where we spent those summers. Julian's chest tightened. I didn't know. I'm sorry, he died 6 months ago, the same time his grandfather died. 2 funerals, 2 losses, neither of them knowing the other was drowning too. Your mother contacted me a week after his funeral, Emma continued. She said your grandfather had left something for me in his will. A trust fund. Enough to cover all my father's debts and secure my future. But there was a condition. Ice flooded Julian's veins. The marriage, yes. Emma's voice cracked. She said you needed a wife to inherit. That your grandfather wanted me specifically because he remembered how happy you were those summers. She said you'd already agreed. That you wanted this. That it was just a formality. A business arrangement. But that Theodore wanted to give us both a second chance, so you married me for money? I married you because I was desperate and broken, and stupid enough to believe maybe fate was being kind. Tears streamed down her face now. I married you because some part of me never stopped loving the boy who kissed me under the willow tree. And I married you because I had nothing left to lose. Julian turned away, the whiskey glass trembling in his hand. He wanted to be angry. Wanted to feel betrayed. But all he felt was a crushing sadness for 2 people so thoroughly manipulated by the dead and the living. My grandfather approved this because he knew, Julian said quietly. He knew you were the only person who ever made me human. And my mother executed his plan perfectly, making us both think we were saving something. The company for me, your life for you? Are you angry? I don't know what I am. Emma moved closer. He could feel her warmth at his back. There's more. Of course there was. Tell me. The trust fund doesn't just pay my debts. It's conditional. I have to stay married to you for 5 years. If I leave before then, if we divorce, if I walk away, I lose everything. The debts come back. I'll be destroyed. Julian spun to face her. 5 years? Your grandfather was thorough. He wanted to make sure we gave this a real chance. Her laugh was hollow. Turns out you can engineer love from beyond the grave if you're rich enough. This is insane, I know. We're trapped, I know. Emma, I don't know if I can do this. Live with you, pretend with you, when everything about this is built on manipulation and money. She flinched like he'd struck her. Then what do you want to do? Julian looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman who'd been his whole world once, who'd held his hand through his father's funeral, who'd promised forever under a tree they'd never see again. I want to know if any part of what we had was real, he said. Or if I've been in love with a ghost for 18 years. Emma stepped close enough that her dress brushed his legs. Close enough that he could see the gold flecks in her eyes catching the lamplight. Close enough to kiss. I can't answer that for you, she whispered. But I can tell you this. Whatever happens in the next 5 years, whatever we become to each other, I meant what I said under that tree. You were my forever, Julian. You still are. She kissed him then. Not the polite ceremony kiss, not the innocent touch of children, but something desperate and hungry and full of 18 years of longing. Julian's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, the silk of her dress warm beneath his palms. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Her face went white. What is it? A message? From someone who knows the truth about the arrangement. It's about the money. Her hand shook as she showed him the screen. The text was simple, devastating. Tell Julian what else you're hiding, or I will. You have 48 hours, Emma. Julian's voice was deadly calm. What else? What else are you hiding? She looked up at him with terror in her eyes. I can't. Julian, if I tell you, you'll never forgive me, and I can't lose you. Not again, not now. You're going to lose me anyway if you don't talk. I'm pregnant. The words fell like stones into deep water. It's not yours, she continued quickly. I was seeing someone before all this. It ended badly. He doesn't know. Nobody knows. I'm only 6 weeks along. I thought I could handle it alone. Thought maybe after enough time passed, I could tell you, and we could figure it out, and it wouldn't matter, because maybe we'd have something real by then. Julian stumbled backward. The room spun. Everything he thought he understood about this impossible situation just collapsed. Get out. He heard himself say, Julian, please. Get out of this room. Get out of my sight. I can't even look at you right now. Emma's face crumpled. Where do I go? I don't care. Just go. She fled. The bedroom door slammed. Julian heard her footsteps on the stairs. Heard another door close somewhere in the house. He sank onto the bed, head in his hands, married for hours. His childhood love found and lost in the same day. And somewhere in this house, his wife carried another man's child, while an anonymous blackmailer counted down the hours. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She told you about the baby. Good. Now ask her who the father is. You might recognize the name. After all, he works for you. Dawn came cold and gray over Lake Serenity. Julian hadn't slept. He'd spent the night in his grandfather's study, drowning in whiskey and questions. The anonymous message glowed on his phone screen. He works for you. Ashford Industries had over 3,000 employees, but only a handful who would have known about the arrangement, about Emma, about the wedding. The study door creaked open. Emma stood in the doorway, wearing one of his old sweatshirts, her wedding dress replaced by leggings and uncertainty. Her eyes were swollen from crying. I brought coffee, she said quietly. And the truth, all of it. Julian gestured to the chair across from his grandfather's desk. The same desk where he'd learned chess, business strategy, how to be an Ashford. Now it was the space between him and his wife. Emma sat, cradling her mug like it might protect her. His name is Marcus Webb, head of international acquisitions. Julian's blood went cold. Marcus, brilliant. Charming Marcus, who'd been fast-tracked for VP, who'd been to his apartment for strategy sessions, who he'd trusted. How long? For months. It started at a conference in Singapore. I was there consulting for a tech startup. He was representing Ashford Industries. She stared into her coffee. He didn't tell me he worked for you. I didn't tell him about our past. We were just two people who clicked. But you knew. Eventually you knew. After 3 weeks, her voice broke. He showed me his business card. Ashford Industries, right there in silver letters. I should have ended it immediately. But Julian, I didn't know I'd see you again. I thought you were just a beautiful memory. I didn't think it mattered. Did it end? The day your mother called about the arrangement? The day I found out I was marrying you? Emma looked up, tears streaming. I told Marcus that same night, said it was over. He went crazy, said I'd used him, that I'd been planning this all along, trading up from executive to CEO. Did he know about the pregnancy? I found out 3 days before the wedding. I couldn't process it, couldn't think. And then I walked down that aisle and saw your face and everything else just disappeared. Julian drained his whiskey glass from last night. It tasted like ash. He's blackmailing you, Marcus. I think so. He's the only one who could have known enough to piece it together. What does he want? Emma's hands trembled. I don't know yet. But Julian, there's something else. Something about why your mother really chose me. I don't think I can handle more revelations before sunrise. You need to hear this. She pulled a folded letter from her pocket. I found it in my room last night. It was on the nightstand. Your mother must have left it. She slid it across the desk. The paper was old, the ink faded. Julian recognized his grandfather's handwriting immediately. My dear Julian, if you're reading this, it means you've married Emma Winters and discovered the truth of our arrangement. I imagine you're angry. Good. Anger means you still feel something. I chose. It's Emma for you because she's the only person who ever made you smile without calculation. But that's not the only reason. Her father, Robert Winters, saved my life 40 years ago. We were hunting in those woods you children love to explore. I was young and stupid, took a shot at a deer without checking my surroundings. The ricochet nearly killed me. Robert found me, stopped the bleeding, carried me 3 miles to a hospital. I told him I'd repay him someday. He refused, said friendship wasn't debt, but I never forgot. When I learned he was sick, drowning in medical bills, fighting to keep his daughter from poverty, I knew my chance had come. This marriage serves 3 purposes. It gives you the company. It saves Emma from her father's debts. And it repays a 40-year-old debt to the man who gave me a future. I don't apologize for manipulating you both. Sometimes love needs architecture. Your grandfather, Theodore Julian's hands shook as he set down the letter. So I was payment. For a hunting accident 4 decades ago, we both were. Emma's voice was hollow. Your grandfather was repaying a debt. Your mother was honoring his wishes. We're just pieces on their board. Did you know about your father and my grandfather? Dad never mentioned it. He had his pride. He wouldn't have wanted me to know I was being rescued. She laughed bitterly. Turns out we're both legacy children, Julian. It's born into obligations we never chose. Julian stood, moving to the window. The lake was calm, mirroring the heavy sky. Somewhere out there, Marcus Webb was planning his next move. Somewhere in this house, his wife carried another man's child. And somewhere in the past, 2 old men had played God with their children's futures. What do we do? Emma asked quietly. About Marcus. About everything. Before Julian could answer, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. Good morning, newlyweds. Marcus's voice dripped with poison. How was the wedding night? Did Emma tell you about our nights? She was quite flexible when she wasn't pretending to be the innocent childhood sweetheart. Julian's hand tightened on the phone. What do you want, Marcus? Oh, he knows it's me. Emma must have finally grown a spine. Pause. Here's what I want. $20 million. And a promotion to chief operating officer, where everyone finds. Out about the baby, about the arrangement being a financial transaction. It's about Emma being a gold digger who traded up from mistress to wife. The board wouldn't care about her past relationships. No, but they'd care that you entered into this marriage under false pretenses. That the will's condition was technically unfulfilled because your bride came with conditions. Your lawyers left a loophole, Julian. Any fraud in the arrangement voids the inheritance. And Emma not disclosing her pregnancy, That's fraud, Emma gasped. That's not true. The will said nothing about disclosure requirements. Maybe not. But I have a very good lawyer who thinks we could make the case. Want to risk it? Want to watch Ashford Industries slip away over a technicality? Julian's mind raced. $20 million he could pay? The promotion would be harder, but manageable. But giving in to blackmail meant a lifetime of Marcus holding this over them. Meant never being free. I have a counteroffer, Julian said coldly. You resign immediately. I give you a severance package of $5 million and a glowing reference, and you disappear from our lives. Marcus laughed. Not good enough. Then let me sweeten it. I have security footage from the Singapore hotel, the night you and Emma met. You were also with Melissa Chen, our partner from the Zhao Corporation. You told her about the Riverside merger before it was announced. Insider trading, Marcus? I've been sitting on that footage for 2 months, waiting to see if you'd slip up again. Silence on the other end. So here's what's going to happen, Julian continued, his voice lethal. You take my offer. $5 million, good reference, quiet exit, or I bury you. Criminal charges, blacklisting, complete destruction. And Emma's secrets? They stay secret. Because if you come at my wife, I will end you. Another long silence. You're bluffing about the footage, am I? Want to test that theory in court? Emma stared at Julian, her eyes wide. He gave a subtle shake of his head. There was no footage. But Marcus didn't know that. I want $10 million, Marcus said finally. 7, final offer. Take it, or I call the FBI. Fine. 7. But Julian, this isn't over. That baby she's carrying? It's mine. And someday, I'm coming back for what's mine. The line went dead. Emma stood slowly. There's no footage, is there? No. You just played a $3 million bluff on nothing. It's on everything, actually. Julian met her eyes. On you. On us. On the chance that we might be able to salvage something real from this disaster. Why? After everything I've done, every lie I've told, why would you protect me? Julian crossed to her, lifted her chin with gentle fingers. Because somewhere between yesterday and today, I realized something. My grandfather was right. Sometimes love needs architecture. But maybe what we're building doesn't have to be a prison. Maybe it could be something else. Julian, I'm pregnant with another man's child. I know. It's going to keep coming back. Using this against us? Let him try. Julian's thumb brushed her cheek. We're Ashfords now, Emma. Both of us. And Ashfords protect their own. I don't deserve your protection. Probably not. But you're going to get it anyway. Stepped back. Here's what I propose. We give this 5 years. The full term of the arrangement. We try. Really try. Build something honest from all these lies. And at the end, if you want to leave, I'll let you go with everything you were promised and more. And the baby. That's a decision for another day. But Emma, if you keep it, that child will be ours. Not his. Ours. Emma's breath caught. You'd do that? Raise another man's child? I watched my grandfather build an empire from nothing. I think I can handle building a family from broken pieces. His smile was sad. Besides, we're all someone else's aftermath, aren't we? Emma threw her arms around him, sobbing into his chest. Julian held her, breathing in wildflowers and chaos, feeling the weight of every choice that had led them here. His phone buzzed. Another message? But this time, from Oliver. Board meeting moved up to Monday. They're questioning the marriage. Someone sent them an anonymous tip about irregularities. We've got 48 hours to prove it's legitimate. Call me. Julian looked down at Emma, still clinging to him like he was the only solid thing in her breaking world. 40-8 hours to save everything. To prove a manipulated marriage was somehow real. To protect a wife carrying another man's child. To stop Marcus from destroying them both. Emma, he said quietly, how do you feel about becoming a very convincing actress? She pulled back, reading the message over his shoulder. Understanding dawned in her eyes. What do you need me to do? Fall in love with me. Convincingly, publicly, completely. He cupped her face. Think you can fake it? Emma looked at him with those hazel eyes that had haunted him for 18 years. Julian, I don't think I've ever stopped. The Ashford Industries boardroom smelled like expensive cologne and suspicion. Julian stood at the head of the table, Emma beside him, her hand resting in his. They'd spent 48 hours crafting a performance. Uploading photos to social media, being seen at restaurants, walking by the lake, building a narrative of love rediscovered, of fate and destiny and all the pretty lies that made arranged marriages palatable. Emma wore a cream silk blouse and tailored pants. Professional, elegant. The perfect CEO's wife. Only Julian could see the faint tremor in her hands, the slight pallor of her skin from morning sickness she'd been hiding. Shall we begin? Director Margaret Huang's voice cut through the murmurs. At 60, she was the board's steel backbone. Nothing got past her. We've called this meeting because certain irregularities have been brought to our attention regarding your marriage. Mr. Ashford. What irregularities? Julian kept his voice level. An anonymous tip suggested the marriage was a financial arrangement rather than a legitimate union. That your wife married you for a trust fund established by your grandfather. That the inheritance condition has been fraudulently fulfilled. Emma's hand tightened in Julian's. He squeezed back, steady. My wife and I have known each other since childhood, Julian said. We were separated by circumstance and reunited by my grandfather's final wish. Yes, he established a trust for Emma. Yes, he wanted us to marry. But that doesn't make our relationship fraudulent. It makes him a romantic who wanted to see his grandson happy. With all due respect, Director Chen interjected, romance doesn't explain why the arrangement was kept secret from you until the ceremony, or why Mrs. Ashford was in financial distress before the marriage. Emma stepped forward. Julian felt her pull away from his hand, watched her square her shoulders. You want to know the truth? Here it is. My father died broke. I was drowning in debt. Theodore Ashford offered me a way out on the condition I marry his grandson. I accepted because I was desperate and terrified and still in love with the boy I'd lost 18 years ago. The room went silent. But here's what that anonymous tip didn't tell you, Emma continued. Julian didn't know it was me until I walked down the aisle. He thought he was sacrificing himself for this company. We were both manipulated, both trapped. And we chose, in spite of everything, to try to make something real from it.
Oh, that's very moving,
Margaret said dryly. But it doesn't change the legal reality. If this marriage is transactional, the will's condition hasn't been met, then contest it. Julian's voice turned cold. Take it to court. Spend months litigating. Watch our stock price tank, while the business press has a field day with Ashford family drama. Or accept that my grandfather knew exactly what he was doing. He brought together two people who belonged together and gave them a second chance. Belonging together doesn't make a marriage legitimate. No, but this does. Emma lifted her left hand. The wedding ring caught the fluorescent light. I wear this by choice now. Not because of debt. Not because of obligation. Because in the past 48 hours, I've remembered why I loved Julian Ashford when we were kids. And I'm discovering why I love the man he's become. She turned to Julian, and something shifted in her expression. Something that looked almost real. He's complicated, guarded, sometimes cruel in his honesty. But he's also the only person who's ever seen me completely and chosen to stay. The only person who knows about the scars and the mistakes and the messy, broken parts, and still calls me his wife. Julian stared at her. They'd rehearsed speeches, practiced responses. But this wasn't performance. This was Emma, raw and honest, standing in front of 12 strangers and confessing things they'd barely acknowledged to each other. So yes, Emma said, her voice stronger now. Theodore Ashford engineered this marriage. But we're choosing to build it. Every day. Every moment. That's more legitimate than half the marriages I know. Margaret leaned back in her chair. Compelling. But I'm afraid it doesn't address the core issue. We have evidence suggesting Mrs. Ashford may have withheld material information relevant to the marriage contract. Emma went rigid. Julian's blood turned to ice. What evidence? Medical records. obtained through proper legal channels, showing that Mrs. Ashford was pregnant at the time of the marriage. A pregnancy that preceded the engagement by several weeks. The room exploded in murmurs. Julian's mind raced. How did they get medical records? That required warrants, subpoenas, unless someone with access had provided them. Unless Marcus had gone nuclear, the pregnancy was from a prior relationship, Julian said flatly. My wife disclosed this to me immediately after the ceremony. It has no bearing on the validity of our marriage. It has bearing on fraud, Director Chen said. If she married you knowing she carried another man's child without disclosure. I disclosed it, Emma said quietly. To Julian, because he's my husband. What I discuss with my husband in private is not the board's concern. It is when it affects the inheritance. How? Julian's voice cracked like a whip. How does my wife's pregnancy affect anything? The will said I must marry before 30. Did. It said nothing about my wife's medical history. Nothing about children. Nothing about disclosure requirements beyond standard legal forms, all of which were properly filed. But it does specify, Margaret said slowly, pulling out a document that the marriage must be entered into in good faith, not as a transaction, not under false pretenses. And a woman marrying for money while carrying another man's child seems at minimum questionable faith. Julian looked at the document, at his grandfather's spidery handwriting in the margins. Good faith. 2 words that could destroy everything. Tell me, Julian said softly, dangerously. Who brought you these medical records? Who fed you this interpretation? Margaret hesitated. A concerned employee who wishes to remain anonymous. Marcus Webb. The name hung in the air like poison gas. I'm not at liberty to confirm. You don't have to. Julian pulled out his phone. Pulled up the email he'd prepared that morning, the one Oliver had helped him craft. Marcus Webb, head of international acquisitions, currently under investigation for insider trading and corporate espionage. These are the findings. Documentation of classified information leaks, financial records showing suspicious offshore accounts, and surveillance footage of him entering this building at 3 a.m. 2 days ago to access HR files without authorization. He sent the email. Every board member's phone buzzed simultaneously. Marcus Webb has been systematically trying to destroy this company and my marriage, Julian continued. He had a relationship with my wife before our engagement. When it ended, he became obsessed. He's the one who sent you the anonymous tip. He's the one who illegally obtained medical records. He's the one questioning good faith while committing actual crimes. These are serious allegations, Margaret said, scrolling through the evidence. They're facts. I've already contacted the authorities. Marcus Webb is being arrested as we speak. Julian glanced at his watch. Right about now, actually. As if on cue, Oliver entered the boardroom and whispered something to Margaret. Her face went pale. It seems Mr. Webb has just been taken into custody by federal agents, she announced, for corporate espionage and computer fraud. Julian held up a hand for silence. Let me be very clear. My marriage to Emma Winters is complicated. It began in manipulation and desperation, but it's real. We're making it real. And if this board wants to contest my grandfather's will, to drag this company through legal hell over questions of good faith, then you'd better be prepared to answer your own questions. He looked at each director in turn. How many of you married for love alone? How many of your unions involved no discussion of assets, status, or family connections? How many started messy and became something better? Silence. My grandfather built this company on calculated risks, Julian said. This marriage is our risk. Mine and Emma's. We're betting 5 years of our lives that we can turn architecture into authenticity. That's more commitment than most people ever make. Emma moved to his side again. This time, her hand found his naturally. No performance. Just connection. I'm pregnant, she said clearly. With another man's child. A man I dated before I knew I'd ever see Julian again. And my husband has chosen to accept this. To build a family from broken pieces. If that's not good faith, I don't know what is. Margaret studied them for a long moment. The board will need to deliberate, of course. Julian's jaw was tight. Take your time. Emma and I will be in my office, planning our future. Regardless of your decision, they walked out together, Emma's hand still in his. The door closed behind them. The hallway was empty. Neither spoke until they reached Julian's office. The moment the door shut, Emma collapsed against it. Oh God, oh God. Julian, I just told the entire board I'm pregnant. It'll be public by tonight. Everyone will know. Good. Good. No more secrets. No more leverage. Marcus is done. The board knows the truth. Now we just live with it. He poured her water, his hands surprisingly steady. How are you feeling? Terrified. Nauseous. Weirdly relieved. She took the water. You were incredible in there, so were you. He studied her face. That speech about choosing me, about the scars and broken parts. Was any of that real? Emma met his eyes. All of it. Emma, I mean it, Julian. These last 2 days, pretending to be in love with you, I realized I wasn't pretending. Maybe I never stopped. Maybe that's why I said yes to this insane arrangement. Because some part of me knew that if I could just get back to you, everything else would make sense. Julian crossed to her slowly. You're carrying another man's child. I know. Marcus will fight for custody. It'll be ugly, I know. And I'm offering to raise this baby as mine. To be its father? Not because I have to, but because somewhere between your father's debt and my grandfather's will and Marcus's revenge, I fell back in love with you too. Emma's breath caught. You love me? I never stopped. I just convinced myself I had. His hand cupped her face. You're the only person who's ever made me feel real, Emma. When I'm with you, I'm not the CEO or the heir or the legacy. I'm just Julian. The boy who climbed trees and caught fireflies and promised forever under a willow tree. That tree's gone. They cut it down when they sold the property, and we'll plant a new one. He kissed her forehead. At our house? By our lake. For our child, Julian, this is crazy. Everything about us is crazy. Might as well commit to it. Emma laughed through tears. What if the board votes against you? Then we walk away. Start something new. Together. You'd give up Ashford Industries for me? I'd give up everything for you. His voice was fierce. That's what you still don't understand. My grandfather was right. He knew the company would never be enough. That I'd build an empire and die alone in it. He gave me you. Gave us each other. And maybe the way he did it was manipulative and controlling and morally questionable. But the gift is real. Emma pulled him close, kissing him with everything she had. Gratitude and fear and love all tangled together. They held each other as the sun moved across his office, as the minutes ticked by. As somewhere in the building, the board decided their fate. Oliver knocked once. Entered without waiting. They've reached a decision, he said quietly. Julian and Emma separated. Straightened their clothes. Prepared themselves. And Oliver's face was unreadable. Margaret wants to see you both. Now. They walked back to the boardroom hand in hand. The board sat in perfect silence. Margaret stood at the head of the table, her expression grave. Mr. Ashford, Mrs. Ashford, the board has voted. Julian felt Emma's hand tighten in his. Felt his heart hammering against his ribs. This was it. Everything balanced on Margaret's next. Words. The vote was 8-4 in favor of accepting your marriage as legitimate fulfillment of the wills. Conditions. Relief flooded through Julian so powerfully. His knees nearly buckled. However, Margaret continued, there are conditions. You will both undergo couples counseling. You will maintain transparency with the board regarding any legal challenges from Mr. Webb. And if, at any point in the next 5 years, this marriage is proven to be fraudulent, the inheritance reverts to board control. Permanently. Agreed, Julian said immediately. Agreed, Emma echoed. Then congratulations. Mr. Ashford, Ashford Industries is yours. Don't make us regret this. The directors filed out. Only Margaret remained, studying them with sharp eyes. I knew your grandfather, she said quietly. He was a brilliant, manipulative old bastard who always thought he knew best. I think he'd be proud of what you're building here. Both of you. She left them alone in the boardroom. Alone with their victory and their complicated future and each other. We did it, Emma whispered. We actually did it. We did. Julian pulled her close. No more board meetings for at least a week. I decree it. Emma laughed. Then her face changed. Julian, I need to tell you something. If it's another secret, I might actually have a heart attack. It's about the baby. I've been thinking. About Marcus and custody and the future. And I need to know. She looked up at him. If I kept this child, would you resent it? Would you look at them and see him? Would it poison what we're trying to build? Julian was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I don't know. I've never been a father. Never planned to be. But Emma, I know this. Whatever child you bring into this world, if you let me be part of their life, I'll love them. Not because of whose DNA they carry, but because they're yours, and everything of yours becomes mine now. That's what marriage means. Even the messy parts. Especially the messy parts. Emma kissed him softly. Then I want to keep it. Our baby, mine and yours. Not his. Ours. Ours, Julian agreed. They stood together in the empty boardroom as evening light flooded through the windows. Stood in the ruins and the promises and the impossible hope that maybe, just maybe, they could build something beautiful from all this brokenness. Julian's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Congratulations on your victory. Enjoy it while it lasts. Because I have one more secret about your beloved wife, and this one will destroy everything. See you soon, Julian. Your mother sends her regards. Julian's blood froze. He showed Emma the message. Her face went white. No, she wouldn't. She orchestrated this whole thing. Why would she sabotage it now? I don't know. But we're going to find out. Julian grabbed his jacket. Come on, where are we going? To confront my mother and get answers. Once and for all. They raced from the building into the gathering dark, neither knowing that the betrayal waiting for them would make everything that came before look like mercy. Vivian Ashford's penthouse overlooked, the city like a queen surveying her kingdom. Julian and Emma burst through the door without knocking. Vivian sat in her library, a glass of wine in hand, looking entirely unsurprised by their arrival. I wondered how long it would take, she said calmly. Sit down, both of you. What game are you playing? Julian's voice shook with rage. The anonymous messages? The threats. Was it you all along? Some of them. Vivian sipped her wine. Not all. Marcus acted on his own, the fool. But yes, I've been guiding certain revelations. Testing you both. Emma stepped forward. Testing us. You orchestrated our marriage and then tried to destroy it. I orchestrated your reunion, Vivian corrected. Theodore wanted you together. But I needed to know if you were strong enough to survive what comes next. If your love was real or just nostalgia and desperation. What comes next? Julian demanded. Vivian set down her glass. For the first time, she looked old, tired. The truth about why Theodore really wanted this marriage? Why he chose Emma specifically? Why he was so desperate to bind you together before he died? The hunting accident, Emma said. My father saving his life. That was part of it. But not all. No. Vivian stood, moving to the window. Julian, what do you know about your grandfather's first marriage? He married grandmother when he was 25. She died in childbirth with my father. Wrong. Vivian turned to face them. Eleanor Ashford wasn't Theodore's first wife. She was his second. His first marriage was annulled. Buried, erased from every record. Julian's world tilted. What? Theodore married at 19? A girl from Rosewood Village. They were madly in love. But her family was poor. His family threatened to disown him. So he made a choice. He annulled the marriage, married Eleanor, built his empire, and spent 50 years regretting it. Emma's hand found Julian's. Why are you telling us this? Vivian's eyes were bright with unshed tears, because that first wife's name was Sarah Winters, Emma's grandmother. The room went silent. No, Emma whispered. That's impossible. It's true. Theodore and Sarah were married for 6 months before his family destroyed it. She was already pregnant when he left her. She gave birth to a son alone. Raised him in poverty while Theodore built his fortune 50 miles away. Julian couldn't breathe. My grandfather had another child. Robert Winters was Theodore's firstborn son, your father's half-brother. Emma, your father was Julian's uncle. Emma staggered backward. Julian caught her. They clung to each other, reeling. We're cousins, Emma said faintly. Oh God, we're related. Distant cousins, Vivian clarified. Theodore and Sarah shared a child, but you and Julian share no blood relation. Your fathers were half-brothers, but different mothers. Legally, genetically, you're clear. But emotionally, the connection runs deep. Why? Julian's voice cracked. Why tell us this now? Why not before? Because Theodore made me promise. He wanted you to choose each other first, to commit before knowing the full truth. He was terrified that if you knew from the beginning, you'd see it as fate or obligation. He wanted your love to be yours alone. Vivian moved closer. Your grandfather spent his whole life haunted by the choice he made. Wealth over love. Empire over family. He watched Robert Winters struggle, watched Sarah die alone, knew his first son grew up fatherless, and he could never make it right. Never claim them. Never undo the damage. But he helped my father, Emma said slowly. The hunting accident. That wasn't random, was it? No. Theodore had been watching Robert for years. When he got the chance to save his son's life, he took it, and then he kept helping quietly. Anonymous scholarships for you. Business opportunities for Robert, always from the shadows. Always too guilty to come forward. Till he was dying, Julian said bitterly. Then suddenly his conscience mattered. Yes, Vivian didn't flinch. He was a coward and a romantic. He convinced himself that bringing you two together would redeem everything. That if his grandson and his granddaughter fell in love, it would heal the wound he'd created. That your happiness would vindicate his choices. We're not redemption, Emma said fiercely. We're not his second chance. We're people. With our own lives, I know. Vivian's voice softened. That's why I tested you. Why I let Marcus's chaos unfold. Why I needed to see if you would choose each other despite everything. Not because of fate or family or obligation, but because you wanted to. Julian looked at Emma, at the woman he'd loved since childhood. His childhood friend, his first kiss, his grandfather's granddaughter. Does it change anything? He asked quietly. Knowing this? Emma's eyes searched his. Does it change anything for you? I asked first. We're not related by blood, Emma said carefully. Legally, we're fine. But Julian, your grandfather abandoned my father. Let him grow up poor and struggling while building this empire that should have been half his. My father died drowning in debt for medical care that Theodore could have paid for with pocket change. And he waited until both of them were dead to try to fix it. By throwing money at you. By engineering our marriage. Yes, Emma's voice broke. And I hate him for it. For playing God. For thinking he could balance the scales by turning us into some fairy tale ending. But Julian, here's what I hate more. It worked, because I love you. Despite everything, through everything. And I don't know if that makes me weak or strong or just incredibly stupid. Julian pulled her close. It makes you human, like me. Like everyone trapped in this mess. What do we do? Emma whispered against his chest. I don't know. Julian looked at his mother over Emma's head. What was the final secret? The one you threatened us with? Vivian smiled sadly. That was a lie. I had no more secrets. I just needed to see if you'd run or if you'd face it together. You faced it together. That's all I needed to know. So we passed your test. With flying colors. Great. Julian's voice dripped sarcasm. Do we get a prize? Or just more manipulation disguised as love? You get the truth, Vivian said. And a choice. Walk away from all of it. The company, the money, the legacy, the marriage. I'll make sure you're both taken care of. Or stay. Build something new from what Theodore left behind. Not his redemption. Yours. Julian and Emma stood together in silence. Outside, the city lights flickered to life. The same view Julian had stared at the night before his wedding, the night he thought he was sacrificing himself for a stranger. Emma, he said quietly, I need you to know something. If you want to leave, if this is too much, if my family's poison has contaminated everything between us, I'll understand. I'll help you. The trust fund, the baby, everything. You'll be free. Emma pulled back to look at him. Is that what you want? I want you to have a choice. A real one. It's not engineered by dead men and guilty mothers. Then here's my choice. Emma took his face in her hands. I choose you, not because your grandfather wanted it. Not because I need the money. Not because we're tied together by some twisted family history. But because when I look at you, I see home. I see the boy who caught me when I fell from the apple tree. I see the man who offered to raise another man's child. I see my forever, Emma. Choose the mess and the complications and the morally gray disaster of us. Choose 5 years and then forever after that. I choose to plant a new willow tree and build a family from broken pieces and prove that love doesn't need architecture. It just needs us. Double quotes, Julian kissed her then. Deep and desperate and real. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he looked at his mother. We're keeping the company. We're keeping the marriage. We're keeping everything. But on our terms. No more tests. No more manipulation. No more dead men pulling strings. Vivian nodded slowly. Agreed. Theodore's debt is paid. This is your life now. Make it count. They left her there in her tower, left the weight of family history and obligation behind. Drove back to the lake house in silence, hands clasped between them. The forever house stood waiting in the moonlight. The place where they'd been children. Where they'd fallen in love the first time. Where they would build something new now. Inside, Emma collapsed on the couch. Julian brought her tea, sat beside her, pulled her feet into his lap. We're really doing this, she said. Married, pregnant, running a billion-dollar company, all before 30. Apparently we're overachievers. Emma laughed, then stopped. Julian, what if we fail? What if 5 years from now we realize we only stayed together because we were too stubborn to admit your grandfather won? Then we'll fail spectacularly. Together, he rubbed her feet gently. But Emma, I don't think we will. You know why? Why? Because for the first time in my life, I'm not building something to prove anything to anyone. Not my grandfather, not the board, not even myself. I'm just trying to make you happy. And somehow that feels like enough. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve you. We don't deserve each other. We're both disasters. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the only way to build something real is to start with the broken pieces and admit they're broken. It's very philosophical for a tech CEO. I learned from the best. Julian smiled. My grandfather was big on wisdom and terrible at following it. I'm trying to do better. Emma sat up, shifting to straddle his lap. What about Marcus? The custody battle that's coming? We'll fight it. Together, and we'll win. Because that baby is ours, not his.
What if the board changes their mind? Then we'll build something new. What if I'm terrible at being a CEO's wife? Then you'll redefine what a CEO's wife can be. What if I wake
Up one day and realize I'm still in love with the memory instead of the man? Julian cupped her face. Then I'll spend every day reminding you why the man is better. Emma kissed him slowly. I love you, Julian Ashford. Stupidly, completely, probably unwisely. I love you too, Emma Ashford. Against all logic, despite everything, forever. The effort. Made love that night in the house where they'd been children. Slow and tender and real. No performance. No pretense. Just two broken people choosing each other again and again. Later, as Emma slept in his arms, Julian's phone buzzed one final time. A message from Oliver. Marcus took the deal. $7 million, and he's gone. Also, The board wants you to start Monday. Welcome to hell, boss. Congratulations on the wife. Try not to kill each other before the 5 years are up. Julian smiled in the darkness, deleted the message. 5 years felt like both forever and not nearly enough time. He thought about his grandfather, about the scared 19-year-old boy who'd chosen money over love and spent 50 years paying for it. About the old man who tried to rewrite his story through his grandson's life. I forgive you, Julian whispered to the ghost, for manipulating us, for controlling us, for thinking you could engineer happiness. I forgive you because you gave me her. That's enough. Emma stirred in his sleep, mumbled something about willow trees and forever. Julian held her closer. Outside, the lake reflected starlight. Inside, two people who'd been lost found each other again. Not because of fate or family or architectural love, but because they chose it. Every complicated, messy, impossible piece of it, in the morning they would wake up and face the world. The company, the pregnancy, the future, the beautiful, terrifying uncertainty of a life built together. But tonight, in the forever house by Lake Serenity, Julian Ashford and Emma Winters Ashford slept peacefully. Two children who'd promised forever under a tree. Two adults keeping that promise despite everything. Sometimes love does need architecture. But sometimes, if you're very lucky, the foundation is already there. Buried under years and regret and manipulation, waiting to be rediscovered, waiting to be chosen, waiting to become real. The end.